Search and rescue personnel have begun recovering bodies after a commercial dive boat was destroyed by fire off the coast of California. 35 people were on board when the fire began early on Monday while the boat was anchored off Santa Cruz Island. CNN correspondent Conor Powell is in Ventura County, and Alex Perrottet asked him what happened.
It sounds like the first distress calls went out about just a little after 3 a.m. local time. The Conception is a pretty well-known dive boat that's run out of Santa Barbara, California. It's the company that runs it has been around since, I guess, 1974, and it's a pretty famous dive company around here, and they've done a lot of tours. According to their website, it said that this was going to be a 3-day dive trip around the Channel Islands here in Southern California. And about 3 a.m., there were distress calls put out. The distress calls are pretty inaudible. You can only really hear the Coast Guard's side of the conversation. You can hear some of the crew members screaming and yelling and saying that they can't breathe. And then it pretty much ends. What we know is that there were 5 crew members that were on the top deck. We understand that they were sleeping up there. The rest of the divers were underneath the deck sleeping. About 34 people were there. What we think, according to what authorities have said, is that the fire was so intense that the people were sleeping and were trapped down there. It doesn't sound like anyone was even able to try to manage some type of escape. 5 crew members jumped into the water. They were later rescued by a Good Samaritan boat vessel. Coast Guard and other authorities were dispatched to the area, and the boat was burning for about 4 hours before it finally sank. It was only about 60 feet off the coast here in California, so it was really, really close. And for the first couple hours this morning, authorities had held out hope that somebody maybe had gotten off the boat and swum ashore. But as the day's gone on, that just doesn't appear to have happened.
Right, so that hope is, we've heard people before, saying that maybe there might be some people that manage to swim to shore, but as I guess as you're saying, as every minute goes by, that hope wanes. I mean, what sort of scene did the firefighters meet? I mean, how long did it take for them to get out there?
It sounds like the initial responders got out there fairly quickly. This is a big boating area. There's a lot of support from the Coast Guard to Ventura County Sheriff's Department and other boats that were around here. And they started battling the blaze fairly quickly. But it's a combination of both oil and gas that are on the ship, but also there is the oxygen tanks for scuba diving. It's not clear what caused the fire, but you can see there's a lot of things that would help ignite and really just keep that fire burning pretty intense. And so they said it burned for about 4 hours. One of the issues that's hampering any recovery operation right now is that the boat is so unstable that there's no way of towing it or getting it out of the water. They've talked about trying to do that, but right now they're just trying to recover as many of the bodies as they can. And that's the real shift. And just in the last 2 hours, they've stopped talking about it being a rescue operation, and it's now become a recovery operation. They've found 8 bodies so far. They've managed to pull 4 bodies out of the water, 2 men, 2 women. But they've also identified 4 more bodies that are on the bed of the ocean down here.
Right.
And so I think probably in the next couple hours, we're going to start hearing about more and more about bodies being identified and recovered. That sort of seems to be the most likely pattern over the course of the next couple hours.
And obviously lots of questions still to come, but one question that's even been asked by a Democrat senator is the safety plans that were in place, and why, if you've got 5 crew and they're on the deck, how could they not have found some way perhaps to help the passengers? I don't know whether you've been able to speak to any of the rescued crew to ascertain, I suppose, how difficult it might have been for them.
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to speak to anyone, and I haven't seen any of those that were on the crew speak. I think they're still being treated for some pretty serious injuries. The Coast Guard did address this earlier in the day, and they said the Conception has complied with all safety requirements in the past. They said they have a good record as a company and a good record as a ship individually. They're not, of course, saying that the boat was complying with all safety regulations now, just that in the past it had met all the safety requirements. And this was a fairly modern, nice boat. I mean, I'm a diver. I haven't dove here, but I've dove all around the world, and just seeing the pictures, this is a pretty nice boat for an overnight. It was packed. I mean, the one thing is you get 35 people on a boat, it's going to be pretty crowded. So it does sound like the crew was sleeping above deck, and that's probably why they were up there. The real question is what started the fire, and then also how quickly it's got before people noticed and sort of put out the Mayday call.
And that's Conor Powell speaking there from Ventura County to Alex Perrottet.